I'm Richard Sissel. This is the April 30th Migration Minute that takes a lot more than a minute. Settle in. Let's talk birds. Okay, looking at what happened last night. Peak moment of the night, 225 million birds. So pretty good night, especially considering the forecast we had for last night that was a little bit lower than that. So still a good night. A lot of storm systems just moving throughout the lower 48 that was throwing off some of the migration you're going to see for tonight. The forecast as well. Still a lot of systems in the area. So there was some good movement through the Great Plains. Some really great movement in there. Down in South Texas, some great movement. Southeast Atlantic states. And then the far west and Pacific states. A lot of good movement out there. But where was it biggest? Well, right here in the central, the heart of the Great Plains, South Texas and the Southeast Atlantic states. That's where it was biggest. So good movements for those areas. If you're in those areas, you may have woken up this morning and seen some new birds. Looking at the forecast for tonight, 160 million birds. So again, a little bit lower, but you're going to see in 2 nights, that's going to go up, back up. And it's all because we've got just systems all over the stinking place throwing everything off. So as soon as those systems are out, maybe we'll see the next big waves of bird migration. So tonight, who's seeing the migration? Well, Pacific Coast again. You're going to see some. South Texas again. You can see down Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, that area, all the way then into the eastern Gulf states. There's going to be some movement in those areas above where those storm systems are. So that's tonight. Let's look ahead to the next night, tomorrow night, May 1st. Looking ahead to May 1st, where's the migration happening? Pacific Coast again. From the southern Great Plains all the way to the northern Great Plains, good movement in those areas. Looks like Florida's going to see a good little bit of migration on the night of the 1st. And then again, it's a pretty quiet night. These storm systems, whatever's moving with these storm systems, probably there's some pressure systems that are affecting the winds, preventing some easy migration for birds. So all of these systems cutting down on our migration. But the following night, May 2nd, things start to pick back up. Okay, so for the night of May 2nd, our numbers go back up. We're getting up into the 230 million range, which is great. Where is it happening? Well, right there. You can see that's going to be the heart of migration on the night of the 2nd. So if you're in those Great Plains states down into central Texas, you're going to have some amazing bird movements on the night of the 2nd. So coming up, you can expect to see some seriously great bird movement. And the Pacific Coast is going to see a little bit, not a lot. And for those of us in part of the Rockies, you can see there's still a dead zone here where not a lot of movement. There's also just generally not a lot of movement ever in those areas. But all the areas surrounding, we're actually starting to see a little bit of movement throughout the rest of those areas. So starting to pick up in the Rockies finally, for those of us who are out here in those dark areas for the first part of migration, starting to pick up for us as well. Let's quickly talk about our lights out alerts. So where are they for tonight, the night of the 30th? Pacific Northwest down into Central California. We talked about this last night. Those are the big areas there. Some of the Gulf states, you can see there's some hit and miss spots down there where we have lights out alerts, getting lights out for birds that are migrating. And then we can see all the orange areas that are also, those are our medium lights out alerts. So there's going to be a good number of birds, maybe not as intense as those red areas where some lights out alerts are going out. And then the yellow, you can see the Rockies. We're finally getting in on those lights out action alerts because we're starting to see some of the waves of birds finally. Looking ahead to the night of the 1st, where's our lights out alerts? Out in the west, up in the Dakotas, down here on the Kansas-Oklahoma border, and then some Gulf states again, mostly Florida, a little bit of southern Louisiana. Whatever storm system is right here is kind of pushing everything going this way, and so where are those lights out alerts needed? Well, right here, because that's where the birds are going to be coming in, entering, or they got stopped in those areas the day before, and they're going to be leaving and moving up the coast. So there's our lights alerts, our lights out alerts for the 1st, and you ask yourself, hey, what's going on up here in northwest North Dakota? Why does that show on satellite imagery as what would be one of the biggest lit areas in the entire lower 48. There's no big city in northwest North Dakota, is there? Did a city get built there? You didn't know about it? Well, Richard Sissel is here to tell you, no big city. That is energy development. That is oil and gas development happening in one of those big energy development fields up there. And so that is oil rigs, that is burn-offs, that is infrastructure. And so why does it look like there's a major city in that area where migration is going to be intense and we need some lights out? Well, it's all from energy development, all from oil and gas development up in those fields up there. And it's enough to show up on satellite imagery. And then finally, for the night of the 2nd, this is the night when those numbers start going back up. We're getting back up into the mid 200 million birds on the move for the night of the 2nd. Where are our lights out alerts needed? Well, we saw the Great Plains down into central Texas. That's where we were seeing peak numbers of migration. And then the desert Southwest, all the way up into the Salt Lake area, and then some of the Pacific Northwest. Those are 3 big areas where we need lights out. There has been a slight lull in the bird migration, but it's not over. There's still a lot of birds yet to move, still a lot of birds coming into some areas of the lower 48. So if you haven't seen your big waves of birds yet, don't worry. They're still on their way for you potentially. You can see a lot of birds still yet to move. Have we gone past our peak? Well, we won't know until it's all said and done, but that night of about 500 million, that was one of the biggest nights we've seen so far this season. That was that single moment in time where 500,000 birds were in the sky over the US. And ever since then, things have kind of tapered down, but as these systems may move past, we may start to see upswing again, see a nice little peak, maybe 1 or 2 more big peaks, and then it'll be lower peaks, lower peaks, lower peaks all the way into the breeding season. Migration never truly stops, but this is when the heart of it is, and this is when we can do the most for birds by shutting out lights, treating windows, and creating healthy spaces in our home, around our homes, in our gardens for birds. So with your April 30th migration minute that was significantly shorter than other migration minutes, I'm Richard Sissel, local chickadeeologist. It's a real job, it's a real name, and this is a very real mustache. We'll see you soon for another Migration Minute.